All right, Shalom. Before I begin this lesson, I'd like to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Ruach Kodash. I'd like to say double honors to my teachers, the apostles, the bishops, and elders of Great Millstone, the men whom I've learned this truth from. And I'd also like to say Shalom and salutations to the brothers that are out there laboring in this work as well. The hopeful elect, the brothers of the hopeful elect, Shalom to you. All right, I'm the brother Shaquat. I'm one of the brothers from the branch of Great Millstone, Montreal, and I'm back with another lesson. And our Lord willing, as always, this lesson will be edifying. But this is going to be a brief lesson. Pretty much just continuing on something that was mentioned at on Tuesday's indoor or sit down, right? Tuesday's sit down camp. And I just wanted to highlight this point that was made, So this is the book of Proverbs 10, and I'm going to start at verse 3. It says, the Lord Yahweh will not suffer the soul of the righteous to famish, but he casteth away the substance of the wicked. Right. Matter of fact, let me start at 2. Proverbs, I'm building it up. Proverbs 10 and 2. It says, treasures of wickedness profit nothing, but righteousness delivereth from death. Right. So what's a part of the treasures of wickedness is pretty much money. That's money. Having money, right? Which is nothing wrong with money itself. It's just your mindset towards money. Right? And your mindset with money, like they say, no, money can bring out the evil in a person. That person was already evil. It wasn't the money that made him evil, right? So yeah, the treasures of wickedness profit nothing, right? And this is a wicked kingdom that we live in. So if you're investing in this kingdom, this wicked kingdom, right? And the scriptures speak about who's ruling this wicked kingdom. It's the Edomites, man, the wicked, right? But all the riches that you hoard up, everything that you gain in this world, it doesn't really profit anything, right? It doesn't profit anything. But it says, but righteousness delivereth from death, right? Yeah, so what's the part of righteousness? Is doing the work of Yahweh Ba'ashem Al Shai, pretty much stacking up coins or spiritual shekels, so when the time is needed, that's when you could withdraw from that bank account, man. Verse 3, it says, Yahweh will not suffer the soul of the righteous to famish. That's right. So if you're a righteous soul, if you're a righteous spirit, if your soul is upright in the eyes of Yahweh Ba'ashem Shai, there's no way that you're going to suffer severe hunger, man. King David said, I have been young and I'm old. He's never seen the righteous forsaken by Yahweh Ba'ashem Shai, nor his seeds begging bread, roughly paraphrasing. So there's no way, if you're upright and a righteous man in the eyes of Yahweh Ba'ashem Shai, that the Lord will let you go through a famine. Or famish. He'll let you go through it, but guess what? You're not gonna suffer it like the people in the world suffer it, man. You're not gonna die of a famine. Nah, man. And there's accounts where the Lord delivered his men, in a famine. Or they might have not ate for 3 days, but guess what? They still kept their faith in Yahweh Ba'ashem Shai, and the Lord came through. But going 3 days without eating in a famine, but then eating on the third day, is good. It's not as bad as dying from a famine, man. But that's the Lord. There's no way the Lord will let the righteous soul suffer, famishly, if that's a word. It says, but he casteth away the substance of the wicked. That's right. And a part of the substance of the wicked is what? These Edomites, these elites that pretty much have treasures in the treasuries, man. the different precious metals, gold, these precious stones, rubies that they have stocked up, right? The Lord's going to cast that away, and he's actually going to transfer it to the Israelites, you know. Verse 4, here's the point, verse 4 and 5. It says, he becometh poor that dealeth with a slack hand, but the hand of the diligent maketh rich. Right. So you become poor if you deal with a slack hand. I want to see what it says in the NLT to see if it gives a more modern. This is Proverbs 10 and 4 in the NLT. It says, lazy people are soon poor. Hard workers get rich. Right? It says, he becometh poor that dealeth with a slack hand. So a slack hand is you being lazy. And you're going to become poor. You're going to be in a destitute state. But the hand of the diligent maketh the rich. And that could be applied to anything, not just money. Not just money. What am I thinking about? How do I phrase this? Right? Anything you do, like the scriptures say, whatsoever thou puttest thy hand to do, do with all your might. Don't be lazy to do it, but do it with your strength. Do it to the best of your ability. And you could actually yield fruit from that. Right? Oh yeah, that's even another example. Planting and reaping a harvest. Right? That's not dealing with money, but that's not dealing with literal money, but that's going to benefit you. But if you deal with a slack hand, planting and harvesting, you're not going to get as much out of it. It says, he that gathereth in summer is a wise son, but he that sleepeth in harvest is a son that causes shame. That's right. So there's a time and place for everything, right? Like the scriptures say in the book of Ecclesiastes, it's a time to everything under the sun. Like here it says that the son that gathereth in the summer is wise, because that's the time to gather, right? That's the time to gather. But if you deal with a slack hand, if you're lazy and you don't gather in the summer when it's the time to, when winter comes, guess what? You're gonna regret not working in harvesting in the summer, man. But he that sleepeth in harvest is a son that causes shame, because you're lazy. You're not working, right? And you're actually gonna suffer, man. You're gonna suffer when the season for the for what you would have gathered in the summer would have benefited you in the winter. You would have suffered, man, because you didn't do it with all your might. You didn't do it with your diligence, with due diligence. An example that comes to mind, which came to mind, is Joseph and Pharaoh. How Joseph got a dream about the 7-year famine, and the 7-year, but before that, the seven years that was going to be bountiful, right? So if they dealt with a slack hand in the first 7 years, they would suffer in the next 7 years. But guess what? Wisdom is knowing that, okay, right now I'm being blessed. I'm gonna pretty much emphasize on this blessing and use up as much as possible, because understanding that there's always gonna be a flip side, because it's not always blessings. You're always gonna go through things. You're always gonna be, it's a balance. That's the balance of Yahweh Shema Shai. But when you're in the right season, you pretty much hone that season, hone that moment. If that makes sense, what I'm trying to explain. And then when the other season comes, for example, dealing with blessings, right? The Lord might bless you for a season, but then the next season might not be as a blessing. It might be, you might be catching hell. But since you pretty much honed in on that blessing, the hell would be made a little bit easier, because you stabilized yourself from honing in on the blessing season, you know? Just like Joseph's situation, man, in Egypt. You know, it was a blessed 7 years and a cursed 7 years. But they honed in on that on the first 7 years, which they doubled everything or tripled. I forgot how much it was, you know. And then the next 7 years, it wasn't as bad, even though there was a famine, you know. But that's just an example. That's just something that came to mind. And Lord willing, I hope this was edifying to the elect. I say, call Halayim La Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai Ba'Shem Ruach HaKodesh. Once again, double honest to my teachers, the men that taught me this truth, the ones that I've learned this truth from, the apostles, the bishops, and the elders of Great Millstone. And as always, Shalom and salutations to the elect.